Well, Turkish authorities have arrested the head of Amnesty International in the country as part of a massive crackdown on dissent following the 2016 failed coup attempt. According to the rights group, Taner Kilic was arrested along with 22 other lawyers in the city of Izmir over suspected links with U.S.-based opposition cleric Fethullah Gulen. Amnesty International said the arrests prove how arbitrary Ankara''s post-coup crackdown had become. It also called on Turkish authorities to immediately release the detainees and drop all charges against them. Over 100,000 people have been sacked or suspended over suspected links with Gulen since last year's failed coup, which Turkey blames on the cleric. Gulen denies all charges. Crossing over to Ontario, joined by political commentator and analyst Jason Unruhe. Thank you so much for being with us. Well, how do you see this, what's going on? Because now we have one of the heads of Amnesty International actually now being detained in Turkey. Do you think that there is reason to detain an individual like him, or is it part of just this broader crackdown and arresting anyone that basically the regime deems necessary?
I think it's definitely a case of the Turkish government is just out to crack down on anyone they suspect in the slightest way of having been behind the recent attempted coup. Already, Turkey has tried to place pressure on the government, now the state of Texas, in order to get funding, to get a hold of any information or to identify any funding that has gone towards any schools affiliated with Gulen. While Amnesty International sometimes does have shady connections within the global community, relatively speaking, they have only been a mouthpiece for certain countries and their interests. I really wonder if the arrest is really connected to anything Amnesty International may or may not have done. I think this is more a ploy on the part of Turkey to place pressure on organizations that may have been critical of the government at some time.
Well, in general, we look at this crackdown. Basically, it's been going on almost a year now since the failed coup, excuse me, last summer. Where do you think it's going to go? Because already we have seen just hundreds of thousands of people losing their jobs, are being arrested, many not being charged. And of course, there has been some rumblings from various capitals in dealing with Erdogan, but it doesn't seem to be backing off.
No, I think that there's definitely not only a search for those responsible for the coup, but I think this is definitely turning into a witch hunt where perhaps Erdogan is seeing connections where perhaps connections don't exist. He seems very intent upon protecting his position as the head of the government and is perhaps taking things a little bit too far and is perhaps he's seeing conspiracies where conspiracies don't exist. But this has been a tremendous amount of trouble for Turkish society and has placed a lot of fear in people who are genuinely innocent of having done, are innocent of any crimes against the government whatsoever, and makes a lot of people, particularly more vocal opponents of the government, so to speak, to walk around on eggshells when criticizing the government because they're afraid of being labeled as one of the people who may have been involved in the coup. And I think this may be a part of Erdogan's way to try to silence some critics.
Well, how likely is all of this to backfire on Erdogan and his plan?
I really think that remains to be seen exactly what the effects will be, particularly how this situation plays out. He may decide to just simply release the head of Amnesty International, or he may decide to prosecute him. Frankly, I don't think it would be a very good idea to prosecute the head of Amnesty International, because I don't think that there's really likely any possibility that he's involved with any coup attempt against the government. Amnesty International, well, sometimes being shady characters, are genuinely a human rights organization, if not, biased on some occasions. I don't think the international community would look very well upon this because it's very unlikely that the man arrested had anything to do with any kind of coup plots. So I think it would be a bad PR move by Turkey.
All right, thanks so much for being with us out of Ontario, political commentator and analyst at Mr. Jason Unruhe.